Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Soul Talk Radio. So, during today's episode, I wanted to discuss a mindset shift and how this past week went for me and how I started to cultivate joy and bring more joy back into my life. So, last week was a pretty difficult week. It's one of the reasons why I didn't have a podcast episode last week. I'm having major plumbing issues at my house. And it turns out now I have to have my main line replaced in my home. So last Sunday, that's why I didn't have an episode, is because I was dealing with a lot of those plumbing issues. And when the plumber first told me that the main line needed to be replaced and he gave me a quote for that, I started crying. Once he was gone, I started crying. And because it was overwhelming, I wasn't expecting to have to spend that amount of money right now, and I didn't know where it was going to come from. And so I just felt very overwhelmed, and I needed to take a moment to process those emotions, which is necessary. I want to talk about how, a lot of times you see creators online and they just seem happy all the time. And when you witness that, and you're not happy all the time, you can start to think things like, okay, well, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Why am I not happy all the time? I mean, I don't want to speak to other people's experience, but most people, including myself, we're not happy 24/7. We go through ups and downs. That is normal. That is life. That is human emotion. And we're normally only shown the positive real online, right? So I think it's important to talk about when, especially for creators, to talk about when they're having a low moment and how they got through that. So I wanted to kind of share how I did that this week. So for a couple of days, I was just feeling low. And okay, so the same day that I was having those large plumbing issues, my couch broke as well. And I'm like, what else can go wrong? Like, I'm having those sort of thoughts, like, what else can possibly go wrong? When it rains, it pours. Okay, so I'm sitting on my couch, and I only paid $100 for this couch, so I'm trying not to be too upset about it, but it's a electric reclining couch, and I'm in the reclining mode watching TV, and it's storming outside, and lightning struck my backyard. The second lightning struck, I went to go get up, and the couch no longer worked. Both sides no longer worked. So I'm pretty sure lightning fried my couch. So I'm just like, okay, what else can go wrong? So, I was in that kind of woe is me mindset, and I was having thoughts like, why is this happening to me? Why is everything going wrong? That sort of negative thought cycle, worrisome, anxious thought cycle that we can get into, especially when things go wrong. So I got to a point during the week where I'm like, you need to pull yourself out of this. There's nothing you can do to change what is happening. There's nothing you can do to change what's happening. And I tell myself that a lot. Things will happen in our lives, and we'll have these thoughts like, why is this happening to me? And it's like trying to dissect why it's happening isn't really helpful. It's happening. It's here. And now you just need to take the steps to fix it and then work to release it, because there's nothing you can do to change it. I can't magically change the fact that my main line needs to be replaced. I can't magically make it free. So it is what it is. And I find solutions to the problem, right? So last week I had a moment where I asked myself, like, you got to pull yourself out of this. And I thought, what can I do to bring myself back to joy, right? And that's what I've started doing when I'm experiencing when I'm going down a really worrisome or anxious or depressed thought cycle, repeating those same thoughts over and over. Why is this happening? Sort of thing. So what I did was I practiced gratitude. I looked around my house and I thought, honey, you are so lucky to even be able to own a home. And you wouldn't be having these issues if you didn't own a home. Like, things come up, things happen. That's home ownership. But I'm so grateful to have this home. I feel an energetic connection to this home. So it was about 2.5 years ago that I was house searching and I bought this home. The second I walked in, and I had seen so many houses, I just felt like this was where I was supposed to be. I got full body goosebumps. I hadn't even seen the whole house. I walked in and I told my realtor, like, this is it. And goosebumps. Like, I feel like there's something, maybe an energy or a person who used to live here, or just something about this home, or just my own guides being like, this is where you need to be. Something was telling me this is it. And the process to buy the house was like so smooth. Things needed to be fixed. She fixed them. So I'm so thankful to even be here. So I'm trying not to be upset that something like this needs to be fixed. Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah, I don't want to pay it. But it is what it is. So now I have to try and bring myself back to joy. I can't keep ruminating on these woe is me thoughts, okay? So again, I practice gratitude. And then I referred to what I call my joy list. And this is something else I really wanted to share with you guys because I want you to create this for yourself. So I'm going to read you what's on my joy list. So it's just something that I, created a little list inside my phone. And you can pull out a pen and paper and write it down. You can do what I did and open a new note within your notes app on your phone. You can text it to yourself, whatever you want to do. So I refer to this list when I'm feeling down or anxious or just, need a little pick-me-up. We all have to practice cultivating. You have to cultivate joy in your life. I mean, as we know, this life can be very difficult, and you have to practice cultivating joy in your life. So what I wrote down, all of the things that I know that I do that bring me a lot of joy, and I'll choose one and I'll do them. So here's my joy list. Listening to uplifting or energizing music and dancing around my house. Taking a drive, listening to music with the windows down. Practicing gratitude. Meditating. Being in nature. Going for a walk. Going to the beach, especially at sunset. Calling a friend, just talking to a friend. Especially calling a friend and laughing. Oh, fabulous. Watching stand-up comedy. Watching the sunset or sunrise. Snuggling with my dog or playing fetch with her. Watching a funny or uplifting movie. Watching my favorite movie or TV series. So I have a bunch more, but I want you guys to share with me in the comments some of the things that you do to bring yourself joy. And I want you to create a list like this for yourself, okay? I also wrote down when you're feeling any negative or difficult emotion. First of all, and I've talked about this before, it's important that you feel it first because emotions can get trapped in the body. A wonderful book to read if you want more information on this is called The Emotion Code. But just allow yourself to feel it first. When those emotions came up, when he first told me the price and I started crying, I just allowed myself to cry. I journaled, I took a day or two, and I just allowed myself to mourn that this is happening. Just allow yourself to mourn whatever is happening. What people tend to do is we like to intellectualize what we're feeling. Instead of just feeling it, we like to immediately go to, why am I feeling this way? And again, that's very helpful to understand why you're feeling a certain way, but it's not helpful to jump straight to that and not actually allow yourself to feel it. Okay? So just allow yourself to feel it, allow yourself to cry, scream into a pillow, whatever you need to do. And then afterwards, if you'd like to ask yourself, why was I feeling that way? If you feel like it would be helpful, then do that. But after that, after a certain amount of time, and I can't tell you what that amount of time is, that's something you have to decide for yourself. That's something that's going to be different for every person. But after a certain amount of time, it then becomes a choice whether or not you're sitting in those really worrisome, anxious thought cycles, right? We can keep repeating the same worrisome thing over and over and over, days, weeks, months. At a certain point, it becomes a choice whether you're still participating in that. And that is the hard thing for people to hear. I get that. And it's not an easy task to sometimes pull yourself out of that place mentally. So if you need a mental health professional in order to assist you with that, then reach out to one. But I also know that we don't give ourselves enough credit for how resilient we are. And we also don't know that we're even capable of pulling ourselves out of that. And we don't have the tools. We're not given the tools. This stuff isn't talked about. How, when you're feeling down, how you can pull yourself out of that. And again, I think that practicing joy and practicing things that bring you joy is a huge component to helping to bring yourself out of that as well. And I've talked about this before. I use what I call the empowered pivots. So it's switching my thoughts from very negative, judgmental, worrisome thoughts to more positive and truthful thoughts using the empowered pivots. So again, I'll say a disruptor phrase when I find myself going down those train tracks. Like last week, I was going down the train tracks of why is this happening to me? And finally, I said, stop, we're not doing this anymore. It doesn't matter why it's happening. It's happening. So let's just release it, find the solutions, and bring yourself back to joy. So the empowered pivots include, and I'm just reading from a portion of my book, once I say that disruptor phrase, I'll do one of a few things. I'll either focus my attention on the present moment, the sights, sounds, and sensations in the present moment, including my own breath. I'll just try and focus on a more truthful and positive thought by using affirmations. I'll focus on a thought of gratitude. Again, that's the one thing that I did last week to try and help me. I just looked around my house like, honey, you're so lucky to have this house. And I pointed out things within the house that I love and just reminded me of that. And it helps to kind of shift your mindset in those moments, because we're so good at focusing on what's going wrong. We're so good at focusing on the negative. We completely forget about the positive things that are in our lives in those moments. So practicing gratitude is a great way to help us kind of get back into that state of mind. Another is picturing the best possible outcome. Another is just simply focusing on a different thought. Instead of continuing to ruminate on that worrisome thought, just pick a different thought, such as a recent memory or just an experience that you enjoyed. So another thing that I think is important to talk about during this conversation is, when you're trying to shift your thoughts out of those worrisome thought cycles, sometimes it takes multiple times, right? Just like when you're meditating, your mind likes to wander, and you have to notice when it's wandered and bring it back to whatever you're focused upon during meditation. Let's say you're focused on the breath or a guided meditation, whatever it is. The mind will wander, you'll notice, you'll bring it back. The same thing happens when we're trying to shift our negative, worrisome, anxious thought cycles. The brain will try and bring it back to that worrisome thing we don't want to be thinking about. And we have to be like, no, we're not doing that right now. We're not continuing to participate in that, and then work to shift it again. Okay. So sometimes it has to happen over and over, and that's okay. That's normal. So the more often that you do this, the more often that you begin to notice, I've talked about this before, awareness is first, awareness of the things that we're thinking. Once that awareness is established, and once you are able to then try and redirect your thoughts, it becomes easier and easier over time, okay? And you're building resilience within yourself and within your mind by doing this. And I think that we don't give ourselves enough credit for how resilient we are. And if you're dealing with extremely difficult emotions, like I said, sometimes it's really helpful to sit in front of a mental health professional in order to work through those emotions. But I also think that we severely underestimate how strong we are and how resilient we are. And we just don't have the tools to, I think that the tools are becoming much more readily available, which I love, with people talking about this and similar subjects. But I think that just for a long time, we just didn't have the tools or didn't understand that a lot of the thoughts we're thinking are false or they're over exaggerated, right? Like, I think last week I probably said something to myself along the lines of, everything's falling apart. Everything's not falling apart. I'm experiencing a challenging moment. Yeah, my couch broke. Yeah, the plumbing thing happened in the same day. That kind of sucked, but everything is not falling apart. There's a lot of things in my life that are going right. So our minds kind of sometimes tend to think in extremes, right? I'm starving when I'm hungry, or everything is falling apart when we're just experiencing a challenging moment. So in that way, a lot of those thoughts are false or over exaggerated. Once we realize that, we're able to kind of step back from those thoughts, witness those thoughts for what they are, and say to them, like, we're not doing this anymore. We're not participating in this anymore, and working to shift those thoughts. So at a certain point, it became my responsibility this past week to kind of pull myself out of the woe is me mindset that I was sitting in. And If when you're practicing this and trying to cultivate joy, you're having a hard time reaching for joy or reaching for happiness, especially in certain subjects, just try and reach for neutrality. You're not upset about it, you're not happy about it, you're just kind of neutral, okay? And I hope that this helps you. Again, I would love to hear what you add to your joy list, and I would love to hear that you are practicing accessing those moments of joy as often as you can. So I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Again, my book, Don't You Effing Dare, is available for purchase on Amazon. The link is below. If you'd like more information on my services, please visit my website, meganshirey.com. And if you enjoy these episodes, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps us to reach more people and expand this community. And may you be happy, may you be well, may you be joyous and at ease. Sending you infinite love and light. And until next time.